So here's the thing. This glue gun, it's not just a tool, it's a lifeline, because today we're diving into art of crafting our way through the chaos of life with a little help from Martha Stewart Living and a wreath that's been living rent-free in my head for 10 years. That's right, this wreath right here. I first saw it on this cover of Martha Stewart Living back in 2014, and it was love at first sight, but it took me 10 years to get here. Why? Well, because magazines like this aren't just about crafting, they're about dreaming. And let's be honest, sometimes the dream is a lot less work than the reality. But here's the thing about this wreath, and about magazines in general. It's more than a decor project. It's a reminder of what magazines used to be. These tactile, inspiring, borderline magical guides to life. It didn't show you what to do. They made you believe that you could do it. And that's the booktube energy I'm channeling today. Of course, the directions are, let's call them aspirational. 3 steps? Sure, Martha. But I love that about it. The magazines expected you to figure out some things along the way, to lean into process, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Will it turn out like the picture-perfect wreath on the cover? Honestly, I don't know. But what I do know is this. Crafting is about more than just the finished product. It's about creativity, nostalgia, and if we're being real, coping with a little holiday anxiety. So stick around. We're talking magazines as nonfiction, Martha's crafty legacy, and just maybe we'll uncover what makes projects like this so special, imperfections and all. I'm Nick, this is Dr. Cranky Pants Reads, and let's craft through some anxiety, shall we? One of the things that I like to do is I like to create one new piece of decor for my house every year. It's been stockings in the past or an advent calendar, and this year I have decided it's going to be a wreath. This wreath in particular, from the Martha Stewart December 2014 issue. I have loved this wreath since the first time I saw it on the cover of this magazine 10 years ago. So why has it taken me 10 years to make it? Great question. Glad you asked. And maybe you didn't, but I'm going to answer it anyway. So, Martha Stewart Living has been a paragon of just delightful information. How to decorate with a Victorian twist, how to cook things that you would never expect to cook, how to just do a lot of different stuff. Grow poinsettias, grow a Christmas cactus, make a wreath. However, as time has gone by and the internet has risen, magazines took a hit, and Martha Stewart Living was not. And Martha Stewart Living took a hit just like all these other magazines. This is the year for me to make this wreath, for me to figure out how it works and what is not being said in these 3 steps. I think there's more steps if you look at the online directions, but I'm going with the magazine for right now, in the spirit of Nonfiction November. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make this wreath. I am going to spend time thinking through what these directions are and how they function and how to leverage them to make a wreath that I'm going to be really excited to hang above my fireplace. One of the other reasons that I haven't made this wreath is I suspect it's going to be expensive. I suspect it's going to cost some money. And so I want to be as clear as possible about how much making this wreath actually costs. So be prepared. None of this is sponsored. None of this is affiliate links. This is just me coping with some anxiety and impending holiday cheer. Want to solve your anxiety problems by getting ready for the holidays. Seems like a good plan, right? So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to go through my supplies and then take you step by step through how I'm making this wreath based upon some really scant how-to directions. Okay, let's get our supplies together. I have most everything. There's a couple of things that I'm missing. But first and foremost, they want us to use an artificial evergreen wreath with lights. So here is my evergreen wreath. I bought this at Michael's. It was $40, but I got it on sale for $20, so it was 50% off. It did originally come with lights, and I have taken the lights out. When you get the wreath, it's really tight and compacted. There's just not a lot of volume to it, and the lights were making that really hard because the lights were wrapped around branches all around the wreath. And in order to make sure that I'm able to get this to be as fluffy as it possibly can be, I needed to take them off. I will put some kind of lights back on. I don't know if it'll be these. These are pretty thick. These are pretty unwieldy. I might see if I can find some smaller fairy lights and use these elsewhere because they are really nice LEDs. So I've got $20 into my core wreath, but the wreath itself is not as full as I would like it to be. And so I also invested in some picks. I got these from Joann's, and they're in a variety of different kinds of greenery that I'm gonna cut them apart and just push them into various places and hot glue them to make the wreath, one, more full, and two, create some interest. One of the things I did like about this particular artificial wreath was that it did have these different types of greenery in it, but it still reads as fairly flat. All the greens are in the same kind of tone, and all of them are really made of the same materials. And so I think by adding in some different kinds of greenery, it's both gonna make it more full and look more, not realistic, but look more bespoke, look more unique. One of the things that I noticed when I was looking at examples of people who have made this wreath is the wreaths look a little anemic. So I don't want that to happen. I want to do this once and not have to do it again and hold on to this wreath for a while. So I spent an additional $20 on picks. I have 4 of them. My third one's on the floor, but these are gonna help me make this wreath into something a bit more full, something a bit more unique, and it's gonna really create a nice backdrop, I think, for the village itself. So, wreath, about $40. Wreath was on sale, picks were on sale for about half off. So, wreath, check. Next thing that Martha and her team tell us to get, some bottle brush trees. And chances are you've seen these. They're pretty widespread now, and these get glued all around your wreath. And I noticed that in some of the examples that I looked at, they're fairly sparse. When you're looking at the source image, it looks very much like a forest. And so I sought out some resources on Amazon. I supplemented with some things from Target and have bought quite a few of these trees that I want to use for this project. I also have my own collection of bottle brush trees that I have done some culling of and repurposed those trees for this project. I spent $25 on about 35 bottle brush trees in a variety of sizes, and then supplemented with some from the Target dollar spot. Next thing, you're going to need a handy dandy hot glue gun. I have the gun. I don't know where my extra hot glue is, so I need to figure that out. But check, got it, it's done. We have that. Houses are one of the main components of this wreath. They were often made of cardboard and they were painted in bright colors.
And there's lots of different patterns online to make them yourselves. I decided if I was going to make this project, I needed to not make them myself because it would take forever. If 9 are what they're asking for their 24-inch wreath, I'm going to probably need more for my 30-inch wreath. And that just felt like an added step I didn't want to deal with. So instead of looking for them as vintage pieces at my local antique store, these are coming from Little Village Houses. I'll put the link in the description. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't earn anything from that link. They just happen to be where I found the materials that I'm using. So you can make them yourself. Templates in the description. You can buy the ones from Target. I think they're there. I saw them online. And then, or 3, you can order the pre-made with the whole draw already made in the back versions from a place like Little Village Houses. Little Village Houses also sends you the outlines for the windows to glue on, and then the bases to put the house upon. And they all come in this craft color. I've already started painting mine because anxiety, needed something to do. So there we are. But Putz houses, you can find one that works for your budget. So these have cost me about $30-ish with both the houses. I bought 13 houses overall, 2 sets, and then I bought paint and paintbrushes to do my painting business with them. So let's talk glitter. There is a lot of different options with glitter. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to glitter my entire house yet, or if I'm going to leave the house alone and just glitter the snow. Either way, I've got a collection that has existed for a while. I've got this clear glitter that is pretty coarse that if I don't use it on the individual houses, I may just use it as snow. And then I have some different colors of glitter that will work, and need to make some decisions about my window frames. What colors do I want to make those window frames, whether it's sterling is kind of my favorites, or one of these other colors. I need to make some decisions. So, craft glue. I like Aleene's tacky glue. Also, reindeer moss. If you notice the inspiration image, there's red and green reindeer moss throughout the wreath. It was one of the few places where I could find it, and I think it was, if I remember correctly, like $4 a packet. So already with the wreath, the Putz houses, the reindeer moss, the cotton batting that I don't have yet, the picks to add a bit more fullness to our wreath, I'm already at over $100. This is an expensive craft project, but it's okay because I only do one of these a year. I do one of these a year, and that's it. So now we can move into starting to assemble, and I think I can do a couple of different stages at the same time. I'm going to start with painting my houses and getting them set up and ready.
So I've gotten my houses painted. I've got them glittered. I did have to buy some ultra fine snow colored glitter because the clear stuff that I had was just too thick. My next step is to glitter and frost this wreath, which, we're gonna see how this goes. And then I would also like to get parchment paper cut out for windows of all the houses, and the window frames and door frames glittered. So that's kind of where we are. It's gonna be fine, right? It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. my Putz houses need some windows. And the directions in Martha Stewart Living say to glue the parchment paper inside of the window spaces. I don't know if I've said this or not yet in this video, but I did find another page of instructions. Still not helpful, or not as helpful as they could be, but they are there. But renovating them and replacing them with some parchment paper. They have you draw the window panes onto the parchment paper with a glue stick and then glittering it. I don't necessarily have to do that because mine came with these window frames. So with my houses, I've got some parchment in the windows. So I've got some parchment paper that I've cut out in the shapes of the windows, and that has been stupid. This has not been a good idea because it takes so much longer than just if I keep my parchment paper whole and then cut the parchment paper to work for the size of the windows. I've been using some Eileen's tacky glue as the glue to hold them in. My goal is to get this part finished, and then I also want to get all of the window frames that came with the houses glittered. I think I am going to go with a gold-ish glitter. We'll see. We'll see if that works. So that's where we are. That's where we are on Operation Putz House Village Wreath. Time for a check-in. It is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. My guests have just left, and so I am taking stock because this video is supposed to go live on Monday. We're at a point in this project where we're thinking about our wreath and have to start making some decisions about some things because I'm running out of time. Literally, there are some things that have caused some problems. Now, my putzes are all painted. They are parchment papered for the windows. They're glittered, so they're like snow folly. And my particular Putz houses came with window frames. And I've glittered these. I don't know if you can see that. And for the most part, it's not great. The glitter did not stick to the window frames very well whatsoever. I've done it twice with two different kinds of glues and neither has worked particularly well. So I think what I'm going to do is use just a regular bit of glue and on all the windows, outline the window and give them some panes and then glitter them from there because we're running out of time. I'm okay with this. I am going to glue the lines for the windows tonight, get that done, and then we're going to spend some time talking about where all these bottle brush trees are gonna go and thinking about how that's going to work. So while I'm working, I am going to turn on The Lemon Drop Kid. It's a movie from the 1950s. It's where Silver Bells got introduced. If you haven't seen it, I'll put the link in the description. So Putz houses are glittered now, and they're gonna be good. So let's start talking about how to lay out this wreath. Let's talk through directions in the magazine. Essentially, it says, remove any decorations, beginning with a cluster at the top, spacing others around the wreath. The next hot glue houses around the wreath, inserting a bulb into the back of each. So, seems pretty straightforward, but feels like there is much more to this than we think. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this wreath and I want to split it into 4 quadrants. So we've got 4 quadrants, and I want to spend some attention to where these things are actually happening. If I'm looking at this wreath, I want to pay attention to Putz houses first. My wreath is going to be a little bit bigger than the one in the example. And it seems like the majority of their houses are in the bottom half of the wreath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they have 1 and 2, 3 and 4 in the upper quadrant. That's interesting where it's staggered. So I think because I have 13 houses versus the, 9 that they have here, I'm gonna probably do 7 on the bottom. Now, the next thing that I wanna pay attention to are the bottle brush trees, because it seems like we have this really nice forest here just off of center left that I want to replicate. I also feel like this space is another space where they could have done some foresting, but the majority of them are spread throughout. The tall ones tend to be in this upper top area. There's another tall one here toward the middle. I think I may pull that up and make this center a bit more clustered in terms of the bottle brush trees. And then use my smaller bottle brush trees to kind of fill in once I get the Putz houses in. So what I think, I'm gonna get those bottle brush tree clusters done first, and then I'll move into getting the Putz houses in, which I need to glue them to their bases, and then get the cotton batting ready to go. And from there, we'll actually, I think, be able to start pulling this together, which is gonna be fun. But I've got kind of a plan for my bottle brush trees. I've got kind of a plan for my Putz houses. I'm not as thrilled with the window panes as I thought I would be, but they're going to be fine. They're going to not be as noticeable from afar. That's fine. I'm just gonna let it go. So I've got some placement done with my trees. I think the big spaces for them are figured out. So we're going to move into getting bases ready for the houses. And I think what I'm going to do, so normally with a Putz house, you would put them on the base wide like that. But I think I'm going to put them narrow this time, because then I can insert this into the wreath and hot glue it here, and it'll attach inside of the wreath. But before I start doing that, I'm going to cover each of these, as I move my microphone cord out of the way, with some surgical cotton batting. I might have to separate out this so it's just a thin layer, which seems very doable. And I'm just gonna glue it on, and I'm gonna hot glue each Putz house onto this with the cotton batting on top of it, because the cotton batting is going to look like snow, and I'm going to cut it big so that I can make some of the drifts like you see in the picture. Well, it's done. The wreath is together, and I have to say, it's not perfect, but it's mine, and I'm kind of in love with it. That's the thing about a project like this, right? You start with a vision, and you have to muddle through some chaos, and you end up with something that feels uniquely yours. Glitter explosions and all. Now that it's all assembled, there's definitely a few things I do differently next time. Because, of course, there's always a next time. The cotton batting on the house bases that I felt so sure was going to be a great plan, I'd layer it differently and make it a little less snowstormy. Also, I should have made the house bases smaller so the house bases would nestle into the wreath better. Right now, they feel a little precarious, like they're ready to topple off the edge. And pro tip, that I kind of learned the hard way, removing the wooden bases on the bottle brush trees before attaching them, it makes them fit so much better. As for the windows, I was worried about the glitter, but honestly, now that the wreath is together, I don't actually mind them at all. They add a really nice texture and vintage touch. Now the glitter. This is a different story. This project was pure glitter chaos. My house is never going to be clean again, and I'm probably going to be sparkly through St. Patrick's Day. But who doesn't want a little extra sparkle in their life? So let's just look on the bright side. And then there are the lights. To be honest, I'm not completely sold. They didn't match my other lights in the house, and the cord is a little distracting, but I already had them, and sometimes good enough truly is just good enough. So this is a booktube channel, not a crafting channel, I promise. So let's bring it back to some reading. I keep thinking about magazines, what they used to be and what they meant to people like me. They were these beautifully curated pieces of nonfiction full of possibility, creativity, and just enough mystery to feel like you were discovering something special. The internet, despite its strengths, has never been able to replicate that for me. And I really miss magazines, even though they weren't perfect, just like this wreath. But they were, just like this wreath, delightful. They taught you things. They made you dream. They invited you to make life a little bit more magical. And now I want to hear from you. Which magazines do you currently subscribe to? And which do you miss? Do you have a favorite holiday craft or magazine memory that stuck with you? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories, especially if they involve glitter chaos. I appreciate you, and I hope life is good. Join me next week for my first unhauling video. My used bookstore box overfloweth, and it is time to take them in. Join me to see which books I'm sending on to new owners. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some more glitter to clean up. Or maybe just embrace it. It's the holidays after all.